introducing myself. My name is Dr. Behrouz Momeni. I'm the CEO and founder here at BeMo, and I'm joined by two special guests, actually three. I know two of them are present right now, so we'll do the introductions as we go along. So first of all, we got Ranza Nisan, who is our lead admission expert, and she's actually responsible for hiring and training all of our other admission experts here at BeMo. Ranza, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. And we also got Dr. Veena Netrakanti here with us, who is one of our senior admission experts and actually our associate lead expert here. Veena, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hello, everyone.
Beautiful. And soon we're going to have Dr. Peter Gunnerman as well. And once he is on here, we'll introduce him and we'll go from there. Hopefully, he's going to be able to join us very shortly. So once again, guys, today the topic we want to talk about what's been happening in the world and how everyone's life has been interrupted. Academic life especially has been interrupted. What can you do to reduce any sort of, I guess the negative impact of these changes, reduce them as much as you can, and instead turn this into a positive. Everything in life, remember, it's either half full or half empty. It's just a matter of what you see. It's the perception. And I want to give you guys a little bit of what you can do to see this as half full by the end of this presentation with the help of my co-hosts. So once again, thanks very much everyone for joining us. Before we roll, what I want to do is I want to make sure that all of you can both hear us and see the presentation okay. So if you don't mind, so my first question, if you can hear everything okay, please do type in yes in the chat box. Then we're gonna see it. So I see lots of yeses. That's great. Now, my next question is, if you see the presentation okay, and you see my screen on your screen right now, please also type in yes. So there we go. Yes, 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 yes. So it's all good. Perfect. Now, if at any time you get disconnected, just log out, log back in. Everything's going to be cool. The other recommendation I have for you is make sure you're watching this on a desktop or a laptop device, not on your mobile phone. Well, because, well, one, mobile phone is it's just not as comfortable, and you're going to see some lag time because you're not going to have as good of an internet on your mobile versus desktop or a laptop. So that's really the main reason. Plus, I want to make sure you could interact. If you have the opportunity to ask questions, we want to make this interactive, and it may not be possible. So you see a chat box. If you have any questions throughout this presentation, definitely ask them. I'll pause every once in a while to answer your questions if it's relevant. If it's not immediately relevant, I may wait until the very end, but we will answer all the questions because remember, this is also a Q&A for you guys. So if we don't answer any questions, we're going to answer all of them by the very end. And now, I should say that I'm not sure we're going to have a replay for this, just because we want you to be here, take advantage of this opportunity, learn everything there is, and put it into practice. Normally, in my experience, people who don't show up are not really serious. So I want to encourage you to stay all the way till the very end and make sure that you pay attention, ask your questions, because we generally actually want to help you guys out. As part of this presentation. This is not one of the normal presentations we do, and we want to make sure that you have something to work with by the end of this presentation. But let's move right along, and I think I'm going to start by telling you guys a little bit about BeMo. A lot of students don't know the backstory about BeMo. Some of you may do, some of you may not, so I'm going to go through this very quickly. I started BeMo back in 2013. This was a time when I was finishing my PhD studies in the field of immunology. And at the time, I was completely broke with a massive student loan debt. But I decided to abandon a successful career and even a job offer at the end of my PhD. During the midst of all of this and the start of BeMo, I even had to sell my pretty crappy car at the time. I had a pretty old Honda Civic that I had to get rid of and move into a tiny apartment just to be able to pay the bills. And I did all of this because I believe everyone deserves access to higher education, regardless of anything else. Now, socioeconomic status, racial or cultural background should not have any play in whether or not someone should get access to higher education. But the sad news is that some of the admissions tools and practices that are being used right now are not fair or scientific, and they've been shown to cause bias. And this is the reason I made it my life mission to make sure no one's treated unfairly as a result of these admissions practices. And this is what started BeMo and eventually led to its exponential growth over the past several years. Now, if for those of you who want to know, at the beginning it was just one consultant. It was just yours truly, essentially. And I was able to only help a few applicants to now where we are able to help thousands of applicants every single year. Now, a little bit more about us. We're the global leader in scientific admissions prep. Everything we do, guys, we make sure it actually works in sort of, I guess, the laboratory setting before we roll it out. And we study, research, eat and breathe admissions. This is what we love to do. That's what gets us up in the morning. And of course, we love helping you guys achieve your academic and career goals. And our expertise are sought after by media, university career centers. I'll give you some examples. For example, not too long ago, I was interviewed by US News and World Report. I was invited to write a couple of guest posts on Student Doctor Network, which some of you might have read. We are listed by several universities, and some of our Premed resources are also listed by several universities. I was even invited recently to give a TEDx talk about admissions, which you may have watched already. If you haven't, you could watch it. It is on TEDx official YouTube channel. If you Google my name or my name plus intrinsic motivation, you'll be able to find it very easy. Now, also, all of these are great, but I also have to add that, what we do actually works, and it works consistently. We have hundreds of 5-star reviews on our website and Trustpilot, and you could read them on your own, and they just keep adding almost on a daily basis. We are the highest rated firm in our industry, and we have an independent rating by Trustpilot of excellent. And 91% of our students refer us to their friends because of our success rate. And our programs normally reach full capacity before we even get to peak season. For example, before we get into peak season for applications, normally we're fully booked. Before we get into Casper season, we normally get booked, or same for interviews, etc. Now, why am I telling you all of this? I'm telling you all of this because it's not meant to brag. Rather, I want to tell you everything I'm about to share with you, and the expertise of our co-host comes from our experience and figuring out what works and what doesn't work over the years. And with that said, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a background of what's about to come, so you get a sense of what I'm going to talk about and in kind of what order, and you'll be able to organize yourself as you make notes and ask your questions. Now, this is actually a great time because I also see our third co-host is also here, which is great. So we will introduce Peter in just a minute as well as we go along, and you'll be able to gain access to the expertise of the three co-hosts. Now, what am I going to talk about today with the help of my co-host is, well, firstly, what's on everyone's mind? The 5 what ifs. What if classes are canceled or will get canceled? Most of the time, most likely where you are, it's probably already canceled. What if interviews are canceled? What if applications are canceled, which is very unlikely, but we'll talk about that. What if standardized tests are canceled? What do I do about my extracurriculars, research, volunteerism? How can I keep getting experience if I'm locked up at home 24/7 now? What we want to talk about, of course, is we want to give you some ideas of what you can do about each scenario, how you could stand out in such times of uncertainty, and of course, we'll do our Q&A as I mentioned. And for those of you who stay with us until the very end, I'm going to tell you how you could get access, free access to 1 full year of Interview Prof. Interview Prof is our online mock interview simulator, a full year access is almost $1,000 value. And this is very relevant because, well, a lot of people whose interviews have been canceled now, they got to do this interview online. So it makes perfect sense to have access to this. So for those of you who stay with us until the very end, I'm going to tell you how you can get free access to this. Now, before we roll into the depth of the presentation and start our discussion and answer some questions, I have a serious question for you. And I like you to be honest with yourself, not necessarily with me or anybody else, but just with yourself. Are you serious about making your application stand out? Are you serious about changing your future and making a positive contribution? And I see a lot of yeses. That's fantastic. And the other question I have for you guys is, are you really willing to do whatever it takes and invest in yourself so you could get to the next step? So I saw a lot of yeses. Great, because at the end of the day, we're serious about helping you. And in the next few minutes, we're going to teach you a lot of strategies that we know work. They've worked in our programs. And now, specifically, we're going to discuss some strategies that we've never talked about because such a situation has, never presented itself. And these are some of the things that you may not necessarily hear anywhere else. So definitely, what I do recommend that you do right now is get rid of all your distractions, close down that YouTube with the nice, cute cat video in the background. Please turn that off. Close down your email. Don't text back and forth with your friends. Put the phone down. Watch this on, maybe a laptop or a desktop. Take notes, because at the end of the day, I'm not even sure if there's going to be a recording of the replay available. I also know that at this moment right now, we're at full capacity. So if you leave right now, try to log back in. The system is going to tell you, sorry, full capacity, you cannot join, because someone else is going to take your spot. So please make sure you take notes, take advantage. We're about to roll. All right. So first, an important note. It goes without saying, this is a given, but it is very important for you guys to understand that, we have to be very appreciative of our healthcare workers right now and people who are helping us stay safe, making sure we got, all the necessary life supplies we need. So please make their life a lot easier. Appreciate what they do. A lot of you are going to be future healthcare providers. So now you understand what it really is like. The other thing is, if your jurisdiction requires you to practice social distancing, please stay safe and stay indoors. This is the other important thing that I have to say is, this is not an apocalypse like the media is making it seem like. It is not. There are so many different things you could do, and admissions process is going to continue with minor changes, and it is going to favor individuals who are adaptable to changes. Bottom line, that's all it's about. And that's what we're going to talk about throughout this presentation, with giving you specific strategies. Now, how you respond is of course up to you. And we're going to run down through the 3 possible scenarios, how you could react to this situation. And we're going to simulate the end results for each of them so you could have a better decision-making process. Now, of course, if you're personally impacted, whether yourself or family member that you have to take care of or anything like that, here's another news for you. Remember, admission officers, they're humans. They understand this. And there's a letter called a letter of extenuating circumstances, especially during these times. So if you are, again, I'm really sorry that you have to deal with this, but then later on, don't worry, you could still go through the admissions process providing a letter of extenuating circumstances. But of course, it has to be a real, genuine reason. It cannot be a letter of excuses, for example. So if you have a genuine reason that you get delayed in certain areas of the admissions process or your academics, this is available to you as well. Now, I'm going to get into specific strategies in a moment. Now, I'd like to turn to our co-host. Maybe I'll start with Ranza. So Ranza, I mean, the thing is, even, the nice thing, at least I guess, about BeMo is we always work from home. So guys, for our audience, I have to say, everyone at BeMo works remotely. And we've had this from 2013. The reason I had this is because I actually prefer to be, working in an environment where I feel comfortable, and I enjoy working, from home myself. Because of that, I decided that everyone else at BeMo who joins us should have that freedom to work from wherever they are as long as the job gets done. So for us as a company, this did not have an impact. This is how we operate. But now, so Ranza, of course, you've been watching all this news. It's got a lot of impact, but especially for students and the news trying to turn this into a, perhaps sensationalization by the news. It has come, to it's probably its peak. What do you have to say about students who are really worried that, this is like the end for their admission cycle? I mean, we're going to get into specific strategies, but at this point, what do you think about what the news is feeding us?
Oh, I think you said it best. It is sensationalizing it. I think the best thing we could do is take a break, obviously from obsessing over the updates. But I think it's very important to note that admissions will continue onwards, whether it gets modified, whether it gets delayed. And depending on where you are in the application or interview cycle, there's so many opportunities and services that are online for you to stay connected, for you to continue practicing, to ensure that you're being prepared for, the personal statement or refining it or modifying it. So this is certainly not a time to slow down or stop anything, but rather I think you need to seek opportunities to make sure that you're fully prepared for any sort of immediate changes.
100%. Veena, did you have any thoughts about, I guess, either what we discussed in this slide or anything so far?
I definitely agree with what Ranza said. I think keeping in mind that nothing is really going to change in terms of there not being an admission cycle. There's still going to be an admission cycle. So stay positive, keep working hard, and stay up to date with whatever's going on at the programs you're wanting to apply to. Something you can do, not every day, but you want to maybe try and go, if you're applying for the American programs, the Canadian programs, or wherever, maybe go and see once a week or once every couple of weeks what the updates are. Stay up to date and keep preparing. So don't take your foot off the gas pedal now, because I think the students who keep working hard are going to be the ones who see success during this time.
100%. Peter, you have any thoughts? Let's see if Peter can hear us. So essentially, Peter, if you see the mic icon, if you click it, it will probably allow you to use the microphone. Perhaps. So whenever you come online, you just interject. I'm going to move right along. Not a problem. So mindset strategy number 1. This too shall pass. This is a Persian saying. You may or may not have heard this. This is a translated version of it. This too shall pass. Whatever is happening, guys, whatever's happening in your life right now, it shall pass. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, everything is transient. You have to be prepared. Just remember this. In tough times, remember this saying. This too shall pass. Mindset number 2, as far as the strategy goes, this is a glass that's half full, not half empty. And again, I'm actually going to give you guys specific. I'm giving you first some general mindsets that I believe you need this right now. But I'm going to give you specific examples of why I'm saying all of this. I'm not just saying this so that we just have a BS motivational speech here. That's not what it's for. We are going to give you specific strategies, and you're going to see exactly what I mean by this in a moment. But it is actually, this is a pretty, like maybe more than half full glass, to be honest with you. And you'll see in a moment. Peter, I think your mic is working now. Did you have any thoughts up to this point?
I think so too. Is the volume okay though?
Yeah, it's good.
Excellent. That's great to hear. Yeah, I'm so sorry for the delay. As
No
you
problem.
can And there are always some technical difficulties, but we are innovative here, so we can always figure out new ways to deal with these challenges. So yeah, no, thanks for having me here. I'll chip in as much as I can throughout the webinar. And I'm happy, obviously, to answer any questions, and I'm looking forward to this. So yeah, as Behruz mentioned, I'm a second-year radiology resident here in Indiana, so graduated from medical school a couple years ago, and I'm really looking forward to this. So I'll give it back to you.
Wonderful. Thanks very much. By the way, Peter, Ranza, Vina, if at any time you guys want to interject, just turn on the mic, interject, and any thoughts you have definitely is valued. So mindset strategy number 3. So here's the simulations I thought we run, guys. There are 3 choices right now during uncertain and challenging times. Not just this moment right now that you guys are facing, and as you get older and have more experience, you'll realize this a lot easier. But 3 choices. 1, do nothing. So let's see what happens. If you do nothing right now, someone who's turned it up, remember, admissions is a game where a minority are selected because they have shown excellence in the eye of the admission officers. The rest are rejected because there isn't enough seats. It's not that they're bad, but at the end of the day, it is a competition, and that's how it works. So if you do nothing, and there are certain people who turn it up and do more, they're going to get ahead. So that's one scenario. So I don't think that's the best strategy. Strategy number 2, retreat or go on defense, where you get this whole situation getting to you so much that you just go in reverse. It's like worse than doing nothing. I think that's pretty obvious too. Other people who do nothing or turning it up are going to get ahead. So you're not going to have any chance competing with them. 3, going on offensive, turning it up. Why? Because, well, now you have the time. So think about it, guys. Before you were distracted with, I don't know, going to the, bars and clubs and like the movies, this and that. Now, most of you don't have that luxury. Don't have that luxury. Of course, you could still go watch that. I guess that cute cat video 17 times. You probably won't even do that because you get bored of it. So with this extra time, what do? You got to go on the offensive. This is the time to go on the offensive. It's not the time to get upset. Of course, as I said, if you or your family have been impacted personally, there's other things that you could do as well, 100%. But if you're not, there is no excuse. And if you're serious, you'll continue to invest in yourself and make improvements, and you will have a much better application. You'll be much better prepared for interviews. You'll be much better prepared for a Casper test, etc., than you would have under the normal circumstances, 100%. Like, there's no doubt in my mind, because at the end of the day, think about it. You have 24 hours in a day. The amount of time you dedicate to a specific task dictates how good you get at that task. It's like simple math. There's no other way. When you were in school, you had like 17 classes, research, volunteering, exams, tests, and then you want to hang out with your buddies, and then you want to watch that cat video again. All those things were taking time away. Now those are all gone. Fantastic. Put that all in here. So let's discuss some specific strategies. So here we go. What will you do if classes have been canceled? I'm going to give you my thoughts about this, and then we're going to ask our panel. Well, most of you probably they are canceled, depending on where you are geographically. Be flexible and adapt. Go on the offense. Use the extra time to improve your GPA. So I'm going to highlight areas of opportunity for you guys, which you will see every single one of them has to do with the admissions process. So that's opportunity number 1. If it impacts you, remember, it impacts everyone else. And the admissions office wants to see how you as an individual reacted. No one can argue that, oh, this was unfair, this was all happening. Well, if it was unfair for everyone. You're being selected amongst your peers. So you remember that. That's why I keep trying to tell you guys, you're trying to compete with other people who are all impacted more or less similarly the same as you. This is why there's no excuse for poor performance. A lot of you are going to be able to improve your GPAs as a result of this. Let's go to Ronza. Ronza, any thoughts if classes have been canceled?
Yeah, I think that certainly you want to be proactive instead of reactive. I think it is a good opportunity to work on, like you said, GPA, work on a course that perhaps you've been lagging behind, whether it be a topic, in addition with respect to preparing for any sort of upcoming interviews. So you have courses you could work on if you're behind, so that will certainly bump up your GPA. If you have any sort of upcoming interviews or hoping to hear for an upcoming interview, you should certainly start getting things aligned and start preparing for them. In terms of application, I hope you already started. If you are applying, making sure that you're going over your statement, any sort of essays that you're working on, editing it. So there's a multitude of things depending on where you are. With respect to the application cycle, I certainly would be on the offense. So you want to be proactive here. You don't want to be reactive to anything.
Any thoughts, Peter and Vina?
Sure. So one thing I think that has come up this week is some schools are maybe not giving out grades for this semester. I know that's happened at least one of the schools in the province where I am, in Alberta. So they have decided to do a, complete or pass or fail or incomplete, because a lot of final exams are probably going to be canceled. So for those of you thinking, well, I'm going to be studying just like Behrooz and Ronza and Bina and Peter said, and how am I improving my GPA? Well, I think, again, this is an opportunity. Maybe there's a class you did really well in this semester, and you might end up with just a complete or a pass on your transcript. But how about emailing that professor? Again, you might want to give them a few days to respond, because I'm sure they're all dealing with their own transition to teaching online. But maybe reach out and say, hey, I'm applying to medical school. I, did pretty well so far this semester. Here's my grade on the midterm or the essays. How about writing me a reference letter or something like that, right? So now is the time to look at what you can still get, even if you're not going to end up with a grade for a class.
Very good point. Peter, you had any thoughts about the class cancellations? Peter?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I'm so bad with buttons sometimes. I apologize.
That's okay.
Anyhow, yes, I was saying I love that you put this in terms of opportunity. I completely agree with that. I think your ability to adapt to these unexpected circumstances really shows a lot about how you're going to be as a physician. We really need physicians who are adaptable, who can work in a online, at-home environment sometimes, and can deal with unexpected circumstances. So really, I love that you're putting this in terms of opportunity. Seize this moment, and then show that you can kind of overcome these adversities and do something even more meaningful. I'll let your own creativity decide what that could be, because your ideas will be even better than mine. But I really see it as an opportunity as well. So I think that's a good way to think of it.
Thanks very much, Peter. So that was a very good point about physicians and their characteristics that are desired in future medical doctors. Remember, you got to be adaptable. That's another reason you will have no chance during admissions if there wasn't any extenuating circumstances and you were not able to do well compared to your peers during this time. It will just be no chance, because they'll know immediately that, oh, no, this person is just going to give up. If when the things get tough, they're going to give up. You can't have that in like a medical doctor, for example. If any of you guys are applying to med school, any other healthcare professional, actually anything you want to go to, from the audience, I can tell most of you are pre-meds, but there's some others as well. Doesn't really matter what profession. That's the attitude. That's what everybody wants. People like individuals who are adaptable because it gets the job done, rather than people who are just strict and just, they just break as soon as something changes. Now, what if your interviews have been canceled? Man, you guys know BeMo initially, this was back in, I guess, 2013, 2014, where initially when we started getting famous, it was for our interview prep programs. So since then, of course, we've just attracted even more and more. Now we got obviously students, coming to us for everything from application, Casper, interview, everything you could possibly think of. But interview has always been very popular, and we have had students preparing for interviews since, man, I don't remember, since maybe like July last year for this admission cycle, because different schools have it at different times. And recently, as this happened, some of our students' interviews got canceled and got postponed, and things changed. So what will you do? Well, again, be flexible and adapt, go on the offense. Here's what's going to happen most of the time from what we've noticed. They'll just be online. It's simple as that. They're not going to cancel interviews. It's a very easy solution to have them online. And the other solution they have is, of course, reschedule to a later date. Although, because these changes might be, not set in stone, and we don't know when they'll be over, what we have noticed over and over from multiple different schools is they have just adapted to doing the interviews online very quickly. So you guys have to adapt to be able to do that online, which is okay. In fact, I think it's a little bit more comfortable. It's a lot more comfortable. And the other sort of thing that could happen is, I guess, the worst case scenario, and I'm putting worst in quotation marks, is they'll ask for another method of evaluation, or they will evaluate everyone without an interview. Now, again, here's an opportunity. Use the extra time to prepare in advance. If it's online, great. Well, you're at home, everything you're doing online, it's all cool. Like, we helped so many students prepare for their online interviews. It's absolutely no problem. Like, I don't see any problem with interviews moving online, besides the fact that it'd probably be a little bit easier. It'll be less intimidating. Any thoughts, Peter, Ranza, Veena, anybody who wants to jump in? Because I know you guys actually had to prepare a bunch of our students for online interviews over the past couple of weeks or so.
Yeah, so I'll say that absolutely the skills you can demonstrate in an interview need to be assessed. Again, those are key qualities of a physician, of a professional in any context. And one of the big benefits I see of our programs, and that I really notice in a lot of our students, is regardless of the format of their interview, they end up being able to present themselves so much more effectively. And they're able to present themselves as a professional so much more effectively. So really, yes, the format can change. It can change on the drop of a dime. But regardless, I think preparing, taking the time, you just feel much more comfortable in that environment, regardless of the format.
100%. Ranza, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I definitely want to echo that. Whether it was, if it was originally online, originally in person, it really does not hurt to prepare and to start preparing early. Most of you are either waiting for that interview or hoping for an interview, or, you're waiting for an alternate date or alternate format. I think, as Peter just mentioned, it's very important to get ahead. And a lot of that is understanding what types of questions and the strategies and how to approach it, and whether that's going to be in person or online doesn't really make that much of a difference to how they're going to evaluate you, because a lot of it is evaluating your presentation. And you could do that. You can present professionally and personally, even online. I've seen it a lot with a lot of the students that I've dealt with and I've worked with in the past. And also with how you approach a personal question or a policy question or a scenario question, or they might even use this particular predicament as a scenario. And you might want to touch up on ways that you have prepared or ways that you have adapted regardless of what's been happening, a global pandemic. So I think a lot of it is just preparing and getting ahead of it all. So yeah.
Thanks very much. Let's see if Veena has something to add as well.
Yeah, and I think in line with what Ranza mentioned about having strategies, those strategies apply even in what you mentioned, Beiruz, as the quote unquote worst case scenario. If they're asking for methods of evaluation, hey, guess what? Maybe they'll ask you to write down your answers and send it in as an essay. Sure, why not? And the strategy doesn't change, right? If it's a personal question or a scenario question or a policy question, You can still use the strategies that we give to our students in our one-on-one sessions, and they're also in our books and blog posts and everywhere. Still use those, even if it's going to be written down rather than a video interview.
100%. So like I mentioned to you guys, a bunch of our students, last minute it was changed, and it was so easy for us to, adapt to their format. And, they eventually went through their interviews, everything was cool, they were ready. It was almost identical, because now everything looks identical to what we do anyways, because all of our services are online anyways. So what if your standardized tests have been canceled? So let's say you're taking the MCAT, for example, or LSAT, or I don't know, GRE, whatever it is. Again, a majority of you appear to be pre-medical students. So you have your MCAT, and we know the MCAT test dates have been canceled, I think, for March and April. And now you're wondering, okay, what's going on here? Well, be flexible and adapt. Go on the offense. Use the extra time to study. What's the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that's going to happen is, again, we don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, pay attention to the official sites. What they could do for MCAT, it's actually not very hard to turn this into an online test. Obviously, they're worried about cheating, but there are easy measures to actually overcome the concern of cheating applicants and bring this online. So it could just go online. It could be the same exact test online. And if you're going on a retreat and not preparing because you're assuming that, oh, it's going to be gone, man, you're going to be getting a pretty nasty surprise, and that's not good. So go on the offense. The other thing is, well, just be scheduled to a later date, or like the same as an interview, they may ask you for something else. Now, right now we have several students that are preparing their applications for the upcoming cycle, and they're in the same situation. That hasn't changed anything as far as their strategy goes, because neither of the, whether it's online or rescheduled or they ask you for another method of evaluation, doesn't change anything about admissions. It doesn't mean they should now slow down, I don't know, working on their personal statements, for example. It doesn't at all. So what I would say is, again, use the extra time to prepare. So when you know that you're able to take the test, you're not surprised with just a 2-week notice. You cannot prepare for the MCAT in 2 weeks. It's just impossible. You can't do that. So prepare now as if your test date was on the date that you had originally scheduled it for, so that you over prepare, never under prepare. I want to see if any of our co-hosts again have any thoughts. If not, I can move forward.
Yeah, so I think that with this, Bruce, you definitely said it. I think for some and most of the students, when we sit down and we talk about the MCAT, there are certain particular sections that they don't feel very confident in. So this is the best opportunity to read up on a particular section. In terms of the reading section, the CAR section, you could do that consistently. There's a variety of things you can start reading, a variety of things you can start preparing for it. So I think for some students, this is actually a good opportunity to really refine their knowledge in certain areas and get their hands on as many practice tests as possible so they could prepare, whether it's online or in person.
Yeah, 100%. Guys, as I mentioned, keep typing in your questions. There's a whole bunch of questions. We're gonna get through all of them, but I'm gonna probably keep them all the way to the end. So stick around. We're gonna answer all your questions, not to worry. How will I be able to continue research, volunteerism, I don't know, clinical experience, etc., etc.? So let's see. Be flexible and adapt. See if there's anything you could continue online with your existing projects. If not, find others or other opportunities that can be online. Now, here is a big opportunity for you. Given the current circumstances and research in the new virus, COVID-19, there's lots of research going on right now that didn't exist about 6 months ago. That's a huge opportunity for you guys to be part of this research. And a lot of the work they do is not necessarily in the laboratory setting. A lot of work can be done as a research assistant from the comfort of your home, because they need people to analyze data or do some organization of several different databases. There's so many different things you could do. You could do literature research, etc., etc., etc. All you have to do is reach out to researchers who are doing this and get involved. So, for example, that was just an example for research. If you're worried, oh my God, this thing is going to be going on all through the summer. I had a research opportunity lined up for me. Again, get in touch with the professor. If they allow you to do anything online, you still have an experience. It's fine. Like, research opportunity doesn't mean you have to be like looking under the microscope or like doing stuff in the laboratory necessarily. That's not the point of research. There's so many other aspects of research. That's just the hands-on part of it, which you don't necessarily need as a future medical doctor. Rather, you need the critical thinking, be able to put pieces of information, be able to read peer-reviewed literature. That's the most important skill you need, unless you're actually going to be a researcher yourself right now. But given the circumstances and intense research going on right now in research and development of a new vaccine, and also trying to genotype this new virus, etc., etc., such a huge opportunity. Here's the other reason why it's a huge opportunity. If you find one of these opportunities and you participate, you're gonna be very, very likely, if there's a publication, the publication is gonna be in a very high impact, prestigious journal. And guess what? If you have contributed significantly, you now have your name as a co-author on a high impact journal. So how is that for an opportunity? Any thoughts, guys? Peter, Ranza, Veena?
Yes. So I have a lot of thoughts here, so I'm sure I could go on for an hour, but I won't. I'm one of the BeMo consultants who also does practice medicine, like Peter. And this week, we have been so lucky this week and last week to see what, for example, some of the medical students were doing. And this is a place where you guys could help, right? So for those of you who were shadowing, volunteering in the hospital, right? If you know doctors, physicians, researchers, even if you're like, okay, there's no research opportunities, I tried, reach out to them and just ask, how can I help from my house? You guys are busy working double shifts in the emergency room and ICU. How about I go and buy you some groceries, you'll transfer me the money, I'll leave them at your front door. Can I help you with calling all of your patients this week because you had to lay off all your administrative staff and you've got one person? Can I help out with maybe calling all of your patients and saying, hey, guess what? Dr. Smith is going to be doing everything via teleconsulting. So any physicians volunteer coordinators, all the supervisors you've been working with, just reach out to them with a quick email or a phone call. I promise you they will appreciate it so much, and guess what? They're gonna put that on your reference letter. Hey, guess what? She reached out to me. He reached out to me during this time. Just to let you guys know, something the medical students here in Canada have done of their own accord, they all volunteered to babysit the doctor's kids for free because they basically shut down cares. Okay, they did that by themselves. If you can show that kind of initiative here, ask them what they need, I promise you, you're going to be standing out.
Fantastic examples. Peter, Ranza?
One thing I was going to add is that those are all wonderful, Veena. Outside of, say, you don't necessarily know or are close with a physician, I think another thing you could take an opportunity of is that a lot of people are actually working from home or are more available to speak to about opportunities. So if perhaps you have LinkedIn, I think that is a tool that so often a lot of students do not value and do not use as soon as they could. And a simple message that you can put together, and if you're looking to get involved with a lab, this would be a time to either align things and get things set in the future, or start making those professional connections and reaching out to a laboratory manager. They're more likely to respond. They're more likely working at home, if not just not working at the time, to respond to you, whether it's, again, same thing to what Bruce said, can I do anything? Could I volunteer my time and organize anything in my end from home? Or do you foresee anything that's coming up that you will need incredible assistance in? I think that this is an opportunity not only to start getting connected with people that you otherwise would not be able to get a response from because they're so busy from work, but this is also a good opportunity to take that initiative to offer your assistance in areas that they desperately need help in, because it's such a dire need right now. So I think that, yeah, LinkedIn would also be another powerful resource to start connecting yourselves, even with local organizations, or not even local. If you can work from remote, I mean, you could really kind of expand that search and start reaching out and start, again, putting together a professional message about what your intent is, what it is that you're hoping to get out of it, and then hoping for a response back.
100%. Peter?
Yeah, I think those are all really good ideas. And to me, the overarching theme is to just encourage our listeners not to be complacent. It would be very easy during this time to say, well, no classes, no work, I'll just take it easy. And there are so many opportunities out there right now. I think every community has a real need for creative solutions and smart, bright young people like our listeners to help out. Vina's example of babysitting is awesome. That seems like such a simple thing, and yet I'm here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and right now that's actually a big issue for our faculty and our residents. What are we going to do with all our kids? So that wasn't a solution that came up. We need creativity. We need those creative ideas to be able to share, and there's such a need. It's such a great opportunity for all of our listeners to jump in, to make a difference. So yeah, I think don't be complacent. That's for sure.
100%. Now, what will happen to the application season? So let's say maybe you were unsuccessful last season, you're studying now, or you're a first-time applicant, you're studying now in the middle of this. What's going to happen? Well, probably nothing is going to happen to the application season. That's the simplest thing I can tell you. In my opinion, I don't think anything's going to happen because everything's online. Why would anything happen? You upload all your documents online. I already told you could do your interviews online. Casper is online. Everything is online. So why would anything change? Nothing. So don't make an excuse to delay. Don't forget about that rolling admissions. You got to be preparing already with that extra time. Right now, you don't have to worry about class and etc. etc. Get started on that application if that's the stage you're at. Again, remember, if there's any changes, it will probably impact everyone equally. Start preparing for applications, Casper interview, and so forth. Start asking for reference letters. Use that extra time to make sure you have everything for rolling admissions and be ready to submit as soon as the application opens. So again, another opportunity for you. Essentially, that was the theme, I guess we kept saying. It's just be open to changes and adapt. And you know what? It's not a huge deal that you have to do, because all you have to do is online. This essentially things will just change to online, which is actually a little bit more convenient, in my opinion. Probably most of you also like that as well. Now, this is the time, as Peter said at the very, very beginning, to show that you're resilient, that you're adaptable, that you're not going to be shaken up by just any stress that comes at you, because that's the hallmark of a great future medical doctor. Now, golden opportunity. So let's review this. Always offense, 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 offense. Never defense. Adapt. Be flexible. Be safe, but continue with your regular life goals. And how you respond can turn this into an opportunity for you versus those who may just all of a sudden stop doing anything and retreat. So be very careful with that. Show the admissions committee that you're resilient, you're prepared, you advance, you prepare in advance, and you're able to adapt to changing circumstances. Of course, goes without saying again, please be respectful and sensitive to those who may be impacted. If you have personally been impacted, you can always write a letter of extenuating circumstances. Now, I told you guys, again, I'm going to go into the Q&A in just a minute and answer all your questions, but I told you early on that we have an exclusive offer for those of you who stay with us until the very end, and I'm going to tell you what it is. So remember, you're going to get free access to Interview Prof But, and I'll give you a little bit more background on Interview Prof. It's essentially an online mock interview platform. It's really cool because essentially what happens is once you get access to this, you log in. Inside the members area, there's 10 simulated mock interviews. You click on the one you like, then it will take you into a virtual interview room, and it simulates the real interview as much as possible, where each question you have a limited amount of time. You cannot go on forever. There's a specific timer. Once the time is up, you have to move to the next question. It's not up to you. You can never go back. Again, that's all designed intentionally. And then eventually, once the interview is done, here's where it gets really cool. You're able to go back into the members area and watch your own video recording. The cool thing about that is you get to see if you have any ums, if you forget to say hellos and goodbyes, if you forget to smile, if you say something, I don't know, if you have maybe some weird body language that you could take care of, or more importantly, if you're providing answers that are relevant, concise, and actually make sense and coherent. So it's really advantageous for those of you who have online interviews to be able to practice with this software. As I mentioned to you, you actually get 10 mock interviews already included. You have a full year access. It's almost $1,000 value by itself. But first, a lot of you asked about our application review programs, and it's timely because it's time of application. So I'd like to tell you a little bit more of what we can do here at BeMo. First of all, you get to work with our admission experts who, literally have combined years of experience. And as a company, because we help so many students, this experience keeps allowing us to figure out exactly what works and what doesn't work. You'll be able to generate ideas for your application entries, personal statements, essays. Normally, in fact, what we do is before we start tackling anyone's personal statements or essays, we actually sit down with them to strategize what they should write. Most people get stuck. It's like, I don't even know how to start this. I don't know what I should write. How do I, what do I write so it's not cliche and just like everybody else on that random online forum, for example? Well, this is where this comes in. You first do some brainstorming, and by the end of the brainstorming, this program almost pays for itself because you know exactly what to write and how to make your application unique. Once your applications are ready to be reviewed, our programs actually include unlimited reviews of your application documents, whatever it is, personal statement, secondary essay, etc. And unlimited means we'll do back and forth with you for as many times as necessary until our admission experts come and say, you know what, this is now ready to be submitted. No more, no less. Of course, the important part is that you listen to the recommendations, because if you submit before they say it's ready, it's probably not going to be good. It's vice versa. If you try to keep making changes after they've said it's ready to go, you also run the risk of making it worse over time. So there's a balance, and our admission experts know exactly where to tell you where it's time to submit. Same thing goes for work activity section or a list of past experiences, or like you may have to do a CV or a resume. We also review that as well, the same procedure. It also includes unlimited one-on-one mock interviews plus expert feedback. These are actual one-on-one mock interviews, all done online, by the way. They've always been online, not because of this pandemic, by the way, and they work effectively, whether you have your actual interview in person or not. They work great. Like I told you at the beginning, this is what made us famous originally. All of our programs, I should actually say, one of the things I forgot to mention is our programs also include Casper test preparation. So we have realistic online simulations of the Casper test. And then this is followed by expert feedback, so you understand exactly where you're doing well, where you're doing poorly, and how to. All of our programs come with a 100% satisfaction guarantee, and you may be wondering, wait a minute, are you guys not worried some unethical person is going to come and take advantage of you, waste the time and money and energy of your consultants? No, not really. Webinar, especially to this point, you're a serious person, you're ethical, and I mean, you're going into a professional program where the first thing that they expect you during the admissions process is ethical standards. So no, we're not. The reason we do this is, one, we want to make sure that we only create products and services where we believe in ourselves and we're willing to offer to our own family and friends at full price. And two, if you're on the fence at all, we want to make sure that we take the risk away from you, so you can give us a try. And if that way you'll feel a lot more confident to give us a try, because we're confident that once you give us a try, you're gonna like what we do and choose us to be your long-term mentors. So in the context of, let's say, pre-medical students, a lot of students we've had for years. Students sometimes come to us during their pre-medical years or during planning years, and then we help them with their applications, interview Casper, then they get in. Then when they're in med school, again, they come back to us for help for different things. Then when it's time to apply for residency, then again, they come back to us for help with their applications, interviews, etc. And then again, when they start, thinking of either private practice or starting their professional life, again, they come back to us. That's what we're interested in, a long-term mentorship program. That's why we take the risk away from you, because we know once you give us a try, you're gonna like what you see and you're gonna choose us to be your long-term mentors. Some of our programs also come in with our get-in or your money-back guarantee, because those programs, we're so confident, given the intensive nature, that we could actually give you that sort of a guarantee. Again, all the details, all of that for all of these are on our website for you guys to read. And we do have interest-free installment option available now. This is in order to make sure everyone can take advantage if they cannot pay the full price. If you want to do that, great. If not, there's interest-free installment option available. We're not interested to charge interest from you guys, essentially, because that's not the business we're in. We're not a bank. We're not a loan company. We don't care about that. I know some of our competitors do this. We don't. We rather make it easier for you guys with the payment, so that you could afford it no matter your circumstances. Now, some of the things, this is in the word of actually in our own students. If you read our reviews online, you'll see a lot of them say best investment. And this is very obvious when you pay attention to the numbers. If you're applying to med school, depending where you go, of course, you could be paying, your expenses could be anywhere close to, sometimes actually more than $50,000 every year. So think about it. And when people get in, they pay for this gladly. They take out a loan, they put it on their credit card. They don't even question this. Why? Because it's an investment. Same thing for our services. It's an investment for you to get to the next stage. It's an education, essentially. And what we teach you are essential skills that you could take with you in the long term. We're not interested in showing you like tricks or anything like weird just to get you in. We actually teach you skills that you could use for the rest of your life. It actually saves you a lot of time than trying to do this on your own. Saves you a lot of energy as a result, and saves you a lot of money. I'll maybe give you an example, perhaps again from medicine. Again, actually, if you see on our reviews, you'll see a lot of them use the word love or worth the investment or worth every penny. But let's do a simple math. If you're applying to med school and you want to become a medical doctor, I could even ask our co-host. Let me ask Veena and Peter maybe. Guys, can you tell our audience, our students here, what's the average salary? It's a very weird thing to say because it depends on the specialty and the years of experience and whether or not they're doing private practice, etc. But there's statistics on this. What's the average salary of a medical doctor?
Peter?
Yeah, sure. So I think there is a pretty good range. I think
it is a pretty good range, like, but what would you say is the average?
The average salary, wow. So I'd say on average maybe $250,000 a year, I would guess, is about the average. I can Google that quickly. Hopefully I'm not off in
That's
order.
actually exactly what I had in mind. I've seen the figures before. I think you're pretty close. Veena?
I was going to say 250, but
Yeah.
that's Canadian because I'm in Canada. So I think we're pretty much all in agreement.
Yeah, I think US and Canada pretty much the same. It's just different currency, so it's bad for the Canadians, whose dollars are not as good. But so think about it. You go through all this, It's a lot of hard work. Of course, the responsibility is huge. And for that, medical doctors have to be fairly compensated. So on average, $250,000 a year. For every year you get rejected, you're losing $250,000. It's as simple as that. So my recommendation to you, and I'm not necessarily saying you have to come to us. What I am saying here instead is that make sure you do everything in your power so you get in and you don't have to go through this process again. And given the circumstances, as I showed you, you do have very clear ways to turn this into an opportunity for you to make sure this works out for you. Now, if you decide to take advantage of our services, it would be a very clear investment, but that's obviously totally up to you guys. Now, how do you receive the promotional offer? And then we'll do our Q&A. I'll answer all your questions. Well, very simple. You're gonna see a link that's gonna appear in a moment for you to be able to schedule a free initial consultation. And the link or the button is gonna appear somewhere around your screen. So pay attention to that. It's gonna come on, and then you're gonna be able to do this. Now, during the call, what's gonna happen when you schedule your free initial consultation? We're gonna answer any questions you may have. We'll tell you what strategy you should have based on your own personal unique circumstances. We'll tell you what you should and should not be doing. And then if you're a good fit, we'll tell you about our paid training programs, and we'll go from there, and we'll help you choose what makes sense for you. It's simple as that. Now, after you've signed up for one of our programs, we're gonna, instead of charging you almost $1,000, we're gonna give you Interview Prof absolutely for free. So anyone after they have had a free initial consultation with us, end up enrolling in any of the programs, you'll actually get access to Interview Prof. So the only catch is that the program have to be a program that includes a one-on-one consultation with our experts. So nothing like a video course or an ebook, none of those. It has to be something that you actually get to interact with our consultants. Now, I do encourage you to use the link to schedule that free initial consultation, because this offer expires as soon as that timer reaches zero, as soon as we reach full capacity. We will only, I should also mention that, honor the webinar offer for applicants who schedule their free initial consultation before the timer reaches zero. And remember, during the call, or when you're filling out the form for the free initial consultation form, make sure you indicate that you watched this webinar, and then that will be a cue for us so that we'll watch out. And if you sign up for any of the programs, then we're going to be able to give you free access to Interview Prof. So